Central.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that you do now leave the chair and the House resolve itself into committee for further consideration of this bill.
The question is that the Speaker do now leave the chair and the House resolve itself into committee for further consideration of this bill. All those honorable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it.
This house is now in committee.
Part 1, clauses 1 and 2.
Sorry, Madam Chair.
Clause 1.
Sorry?
Clause 1.
Clause 1. Definition clause 1.
The interpretation is to
In the definition clause, which is clause 1, page 25.
sorry, mine says 2, so I just want to be clear.
Please says 2.
Yeah, clause 2, sir.
Clause 2, right. Right, sorry. So, Madam Chair, under the definition for authorized economic operator, I wish to insert at the end of that sentence and the regulations. For the definition of customs airport, Madam Chair, that specific definition is to be deleted. So we're deleting the definition for customs airport. The definition for declarant should be amended to include at the, sorry? Page 26. Page 26. Declarant.
Customs airport.
Sorry?
You're deleting customs airport?
Yeah, we're deleting customs airport at the The definition for declarant should read, declarant means a person who submits a declaration, and we're inserting, or a person in whose name the declaration is made at the end of that sentence. Or a person in whose name the declaration is made. Under the definition of declaration, just below that, we will insert the word submitted between account and in. So it should read, declaration means a statement, report, or account submitted in any form, and everything else remains the same. So we inserted submitted there. We shall insert the definition for port, having deleted the customs airport. The definition for port, Madam Chair, means, we're inserting port means an airport or a seaport, and includes any place appointed by the minister by notice, subject to any conditions or limitations specified in the notice to be a port for the purpose of this act.
And Madam Chair, just for clarity, the insertion of port is going to follow the alphabetical order of the definitions.
Yeah, just between passenger baggage and prohibited or restricted goods. And the definition for trusted trader, we will add and the regulations at the end of the existing sentence. So trusted trader means a person who's accorded that status in accordance with Part 16, and we're inserting and the regulations. Okay. So Madam Chair, with those amendments, I beg to move that Part 1 stand part as amended.
Question is that Part 1, Clauses 1 and 2 stand part with amendment. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Part 2, clauses 3 to 15.
Madam Chair, I beg to move an amendment for clause 14 on page 37. And, hold on a minute. The paper is hold on. Gotcha. Sorry. So we will delete, Madam Chair, from the end of the sentence, from but such a request may be refused. We will delete from there until the end and insert in such manner as may be prescribed. So the current clause reads, any person may request information concerning the application of this act from the controller. And we are deleting everything from but to the end and inserting in such manner as may be prescribed. And for clause 15, we are inserting at the beginning of 15.1, notwithstanding section 171 and a comma, and we will make the A that is at the beginning of the existing clause, the capital A common A. So notwithstanding section 171, comma, and make the lowercase a at the beginning a common case. Yeah. Okay. So, Madam Chair, with those few amendments, I beg to move that Part 2 stand part as amended.
Question is that Part 2, Clauses 3 to 15 stand part with amendment. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Part 3, clauses 16 to 17.
Madam Chair, again, I beg to move an amendment. The existing clause 17 says, unless otherwise provided at the beginning of that 17.1. I wish to delete unless otherwise provided and insert subject to this act. So delete unless otherwise provided and replace it with subject to this act. The subclause 2 currently reads, the minister may by regulations provide for the cases in which information may be communicated on paper or by any by means other than electronic means under this act, and to delete that and replace it with a new clause 2, which reads, the minister make regulations A, in relation to the operation of the system, including access to the system, the use of the system, and the security of the system, semicolon, and B, to provide for the cases in which information may be communicated on paper or by means other than electronic means under this act. Full stop. With those amendments, I beg to move that Part 3 stand part as amended.
Question is that Part 3, Clauses 16 and 17 stand part with amendment. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Part 4, clauses 18 and 19.
Madam Chair, under clause 19, I wish to delete the word common where it appears in 19.1 and to insert after exchange of risk information the words with the Caribbean community. So I wish to delete the words common as it appears in 19.1 and insert after exchange of risk information with the Caribbean community. So the clause will read, the controller shall develop, maintain, and employ a risk management framework based upon the exchange of risk information with the Caribbean community and analysis and establish. Sorry.
You've missed something.
You missed the based upon analysis
And-
I didn't say that.
no.
Sorry.
Based upon
Based
analysis.
upon the exchange of risk information with the Caribbean community, and the
No,
rest
we-
continues.
The second line, according to you, reads based upon analysis and the exchange of risk information.
No, based upon the exchange of risk information.
No, well, Minister, the amendment that we have says the controller shall develop, maintain and employ a risk management framework based upon analysis and the exchange of risk information with the Caribbean community. That's the amendment that we have. So from the original, you are deleting common after employ, and after based upon you inserting analysis and the exchange. That's what we
But
have.
that's not what I have on my screen. Sorry.
Oh, there's a problem there then. Yes, let's get into it, please.
Sorry, Madam Chair. Yes, the based upon the analysis and exchange of risk information with the Caribbean community. Okay.
Could I have a seconder?
So I'd like to move that Part 4 stand part as amended. Sorry.
Question is that Part 4, clauses 18 and 19 stand part with amendment. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Part 5, clauses 20 to 24.
Madam Chair, I beg to move that Part 5 stand part.
Question is that Part 5, clauses 20 to 24 stand part. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Part 6, clauses 25 and 26.
Madam Chair, I beg to move that Part 6 stand part.
Question is that Part 6, clauses 25 and 26 stand part. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Part 7, clauses 27 to 38.
Madam Chair, in Clause 27(1), I wish to delete the reference to customs control area and replace it with port. In Clause 28(1), to replace again customs control area, to replace with port. At Clause 31(1), we're deleting again customs control area and replacing with the word port. And I beg to move that Part 7 as amended stand part.
Question is that Part 7, clauses 27 to 38 stand part. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Part 8, clauses 39 to 45.
Madam Chair, I beg to amend clauses 40, subclause 4, by deleting under B the subclauses 3 and 4.
Yeah, most of us.
So at clause 40, subclause 4, under B, the relevant clauses 3 and 4 under that specific section, and that the 5 now becomes 3. at the top of page 53,
Right.
we are deleting under clause 40, subsection 4, subclause B of 4, we are deleting 3 and 4 of that section. The R down becomes amends to the end of 2, and then subclause 5 becomes subclause 3. The new will become as a consequence of deleting the others.
So you just have 1, 2, and 3 then. the
1, 2, and
italics.
3. Yeah. And to the heading for section for clause 45, the title of that section is currently provisional assessment, and we will insert by customs officer at the end of that. So it should now read provisional assessment by customs officer as the heading for clause 45. With those amendments, I beg to move that part 8 stand part as amended.
Question is that Part 8, clauses 39 to 45 stand part with amendment. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Part 9, clauses 46 to 54.
Madam Chair, under clause 48, in part 9, I wish to delete subclause 4 under A. So 48 1A4. We delete that clause.
Yeah, don't move so fast. Don't move so fast.
So 48 1A4.
4. Delete it.
You are
To be
deleting.
deleted.
Delete, yes, delete it.
The whole clause. This one.
On the 4.
This one.
You are deleting 48 1. Yeah, 4.
A4.
48 1A4.
Which is the 21. This?
Within 21 days from the date, deleting that entire clause.
You deleting that?
Yes.
You just clarify. The new bill still has that.
Are you finished, honorable member? With that?
Yes, Madam Chair, I beg to move that part 9 stand part as amended.
Question is that Part 9, clauses 46 to 44 stand part with 54, stand part with amendment. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Part 10, clauses 55 and 56.
Madam Chair, I beg to move that clause, that part 10 stand part.
Seconder? Question is that Part 10, clauses 55 and 56 stand part. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Part 11, clauses 57 to 70.
Madam Chair, at clause 67, I wish to insert in the title by importer at the end of that title. So it will read now, provisional customs value by importer. And with that,
Please repeat, honorable member.
sorry, clause 67,
67.
clause 67, page 73. The current title is provisional customs value. We're inserting by importer as part of the title. So with that amendment, Madam Chair, I beg to move that Part 11 stand part as amended.
Question is that Part 11, clauses 57 to 70, stand part with amendment. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Part 12, clauses 71 to 82.
Madam Chair, I beg to move that Part 12 stand part.
Question is that Part 12, clauses 71 to 82, stand part. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Part 13, clauses 83 to 95.
Madam Chair, I beg to move at clause 89, 1, where it says unless otherwise specified. I wish to delete the word specified and replace it with the word provided. Unless otherwise provided. And with that, I beg to move that Part 13 stand part as amended.
Question is that Part 13, clauses 83 to 95, stand part with amendment. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Part 14, clauses 96 to 101.
Madam Chair, I beg to move that Part 14 stand part.
Question is that Part 14, clauses 96 to 101, stand part. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Part 15, clause 102.
Madam Chair, I beg to move that Part 15 stand part.
Question is that Part 15, clause 102, stand part. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Part 16, clause 103 to 106.
Madam Chair, at clause 103, I wish to insert a new subclause 3, which will state authorize.
Yes.
One moment,
Yes,
please.
hold on.
Oh, sorry.
103. Go ahead, honorable member.
Okay, so at clause 103, we're inserting a new subclause 3, and authorized economic operator and trusted trader shall be entitled to such benefits and be subject to such responsibilities as are prescribed in regulations. And with that amendment, Madam Chair, I beg to move that Part 16 stand part as amended.
Question is that Part 16, clauses 103 to 106, stand part with amendment. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Part 17, clauses 107 to 111.
Madam Chair, I beg to move that Part 17 stand part.
Question is that Part 17, clauses 107 to 111, stand part. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Part 18, clauses 112 to 114.
Madam Chair, I beg to move that Part 18 stand part.
Question is that Part 18, clauses 112 to 114 stand part. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Part 19, clauses 115 to 120.
Madam Chair, I beg to move that Part 19 stand part.
There's an
There's an amendment.
amendment 115.
115, Part 1, point 1.
Clause 115.1.
Sorry, my apologies. Madam Chair, the 115.1, we are deleting the words customs control area and inserting port as before as the consequential amendment. So, Madam Chair, I beg to move that Part 19 stand part as amended.
Question is that Part 19, clauses 115 to 120 stand part with an amendment. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Part 20, clauses 121 and 122.
So, Madam Chair, clause 121.1, I wish to insert the words notwithstanding section 182, comma, and replace the capital A as present with a common A in 121.1. At 122, we wish to delete the current clause 2 and 3 and replace with a new clause 2, which will read, Section 177 shall apply in relation to the production and examination of records maintained pursuant to subsection 1. And with those amendments, I beg to move that clause 20 stand part as amended.
Question is that Part 20, clauses 121 to 122 stand part as amended. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Part 21, clauses 123 to 129.
Madam Chair, at clause 126, I wish to insert the words or his agent after the words the officer shall require the owner of the goods to insert or his agent to complete a customs declaration in respect of the goods. So we're inserting the words or his agent to be able to give that greater clarity. So, Madam Chair, I beg to move that with that amendment, that Part 21 stand part as amended.
Question is that Part 21, clauses 123 to 129 stand part with amendment. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Part 22, clauses 130 to 138.
Madam Chair, at clause 133.3, I wish to delete the word specified and replace it with the word provided. 133.3, delete the word specified and replace with the word provided. And with that amendment, Madam Chair, I beg to move that clause 22 stand part as amended.
Question is that Part 22, clauses 130 to 138 stand part with amendment. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Part 23, clauses 139 to 146.
Madam Chair, I beg to move that part 23 stand part.
Question is that Part 23, clauses 139 to 146 stand part. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Part 24, clauses 147 to 200.
So, Madam Chair, at clause 157. I wish to delete the existing subclause 5 and to replace it with a new 5, which would be a body cavity search of a person shall be conducted by a medical practitioner who is of the same gender as the person who is to be searched, and to insert a new 6, which shall read, for the purposes of subsection 5, body cavity search in commas means an inspection, probing, or examination of a person's anus or genitals.
Um, 198.
Yeah, I get in there. Sorry. Hold on. Right, sorry. At clause 198, Madam Chair, the title at 198 shall be renamed, and just to be clear, the current title at 198 is Protection of Persons Acting Under the Authority of the Act. We are going to delete the words acting under the authority of the Act and replace it with assisting customs officers. So the title of that section shall be called Protection of Persons Assisting Customs Officers. At 198, 1 itself, I propose to delete the words a customs officer or a person assisting him, to delete those words, and to replace with a person assisting a customs officer in the execution of his duty under this act, comma, and the rest shall remain as currently is. And with that, those amendments, Madam Chair, I beg to move that Part 24 stand part as amended.
Question is that Part 24, clauses 147 to 200 stand part with amendment. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Part 25, clauses 201 to 204.
Madam Chair, I beg to move that Part 25 stand part.
Question is that Part 25, clauses 201 to 204 stand part. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Part 26, clauses 205 to 229.
Madam Chair, I beg to move that Part 26 stand part.
Question is that Part 26, clauses 205 to 229 stand part. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Part 27, clauses 230 to 246.
Madam Chair, I beg to move that Part 27 stand part.
Question is that Part 27, clauses 230 to 246 stand part. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Part 28, clauses 247 to 249.
Madam Chair, I beg to move that Part 28 stand part.
Question is that Part 28, clauses 247 to 249 stand part. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Part 29, clauses 250 to 259.
Madam Chair, I beg to move that Part 29 stand part.
Question is that Part 29, clauses 250 to 259 stand part. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Part 30, clauses 260 to 273.
Madam Chair, I beg to move that Part 30 stand part.
Question is that Part 30, clauses 260 to 273 stand part. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All honorable members against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Part 31, clauses 274 to 289.
Madam Chair, at clause 286, I propose to 1, replace the title, which is currently power to require security, and replace that with requirements for security by bond. And under the substantive clause 286, to delete clauses, the current clause 2 and 3. You with me? So we're deleting the existing 2 and 3, propose to delete the existing 2 and 3, and to replace with a new 2, which shall read, the controller may issue such guidelines as he thinks necessary in relation to the requirements under subsection 1. And clause 90, 290, we will delete clause 290.
We're not there yet.
Here we are,
We ended at 289.
because this deleted.
Hmm?
This is deleted. 290.
290, action against. The current bill has action against officer at 290.
Okay, all right.
So we're deleting 290. Clause 290.
290.
Okay. So, Madam Chair, with those amendments, I beg to move that Part 31 stand part as amended.
Question is that Part 31, clauses 274 to 289 stand part with amendment. All honorable members in deleted. 274 to 280, 290 stand part with amendment.
It
Oh.
can't be 290. 'Cause,
Okay. So it's 89. One moment.
I'm sure just need an explanation because the original bill before the amendment went to 290. So although we are deleting 290, the new bill, the next part starts at 290 actually. Is it,
Yeah, I know.
right? So I'm just clarifying because when we go in, we're calling 290 twice.
No, I understand.
Right? You understand? Okay.
So
Yeah.
question is that Part 31, clauses 274 to 290 stand part with amendment. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Part 32, clauses 290 to 302.
Madam Chair, as a result of the deletion of the previous clause in the previous section, all of the numbering adjusts from there, and therefore I beg to move that those consequential numbering amendments, that Part 32 stand part as amended.
Seconder? So question is that Part 32, clauses 290 to 302 stand part with amendment. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Schedule.
Madam Chair, I beg to move that the schedule be the schedule to the bill.
Question is that the schedule be the schedule to the bill. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Madam Chair, I beg to move that you do not report to His Honor the Speaker, the passing of one bill with amendment in committee.
The question is that I do not report to His Honor the Speaker the passing of one bill in committee with amendments. All honorable member in favor, please say aye. All those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
The chairman of committees is reporting the passing of one bill with amendments. Honourable member for Christchurch East Central.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that this bill be read a third time.
The question is that the bill be read a third time. All those honourable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that this bill be now passed and cited as the Customs Act 2021.
The question is that the aforementioned bill be passed and so cited. All those honourable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it. This bill is passed and so cited.
Speaker, recommittal, government notices.
Honourable Leader of Government Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to give notice of a resolution that Parliament take note and approve the Charter of Barbados 2021. Also to give notice of a ministerial statement on the Government of Barbados' mid-year review report. Sorry. No?
You don't give no, I will. Speaker, recommittal statements by ministers. Mr. Speaker, I certainly did call recommittal of ministers, statements by ministers.
Honourable member for Christchurch East Central.
Mr. Speaker, the Public Finance Management Act 2019 requires that the Ministry of Finance, Economic Affairs and Investment prepare a mid-year review to report on progress against the fiscal framework and the annual budget. This is the third time, sir, that I am addressing the country with respect to the mid-year review laid in Parliament in October. Let me assure you that this government is committed to improving transparency in the conduct of our fiscal affairs. Indeed, increasing transparency and accountability in public policy remains a central principle of this government, and we continue to make important advances in this area. We are tracking key crisis expenditures via a dedicated new line in the fiscal year 2021-22 budget and reporting to Parliament, sir, all COVID-related procurement contracts in excess of $1 million. We have made beneficial ownership information of public sector contractors available via the corporate register, and an audit of the fiscal year 2020-21 crisis expenditures by the Auditor General is expected to be completed within a few months. We also expect to table in Parliament a new procurement law which seeks to strengthen the fairness, integrity, and transparency of the procurement process. The law will also provide a framework to facilitate the audit of crisis expenditures and publication of contracts and names of successful bidders. Government is also working to adopt regulations for a procedural fiscal rule, which would require the government to annually prepare and publish its fiscal strategy, including measurable fiscal objectives covering the medium term, and to report transparently on the implementation of this strategy. As an intermediate step, government tabled in Parliament in August this year a fiscal framework for 2022-23 containing medium-term fiscal projections and a discussion of fiscal policy objectives, including a plan to reach our debt anchor of 60% of GDP by fiscal year 2035-36. This procedural fiscal rule will further strengthen transparency and accountability in our fiscal policy making, which allows us to retain sufficient flexibility to respond to the pandemic, natural disasters, or the like. The full mid-year review report, sir, has been laid in Parliament and provides an update on the fiscal outturn for the first 6 months of the fiscal year 2021-22, reviews the fiscal performance against cumulative targets set under the fiscal framework, and is available for members and the public to review. The COVID-19 pandemic has continued to impact the pace of Barbados' recovery over the last 6 months, with the island's main source of earnings, tourism, being the hardest hit sector, declining by over 95% during the height of the health crisis. The easing of public health restrictions since March of 2021 has seen an improvement in economic activity. With the pace of vaccinations gaining momentum locally, 65% of the eligible population aged 12 and above have received 1 dose, whilst 58.1% have been fully vaccinated as at November 14th. And encouraging signs for a global recovery, it is expected that the domestic economy will grow by around 2% by the end of 2021 and 13.2% by the end of this fiscal year. This outturn is underpinned by a recovery for tourism during the upcoming winter season and a revival of domestic demand as the government strives to remove all restrictions and curfews based on achieving vaccine targets by year end. Having reached 2/3 of the current eligible population with a first dose, the curfew has now moved to midnight. Additionally, additional economic activity is expected from several tourism and public investment projects, which are expected to move to a more advanced stage. These positive developments on the domestic landscape during the first half of the fiscal year, as well as a promising outturn for the remainder of fiscal year 2021-22, have spurred a modest upward revision to nominal GDP forecasts for the fiscal year. Economic background, sir. During April to September 2020, the Barbados economy witnessed both the cessation of international commercial air travel and the introduction of public health measures to deal with the pandemic. These measures resulted in almost 50 million less economic activity on average per week during April to June compared to the corresponding period a year earlier, to reach just around $150 million per week on average during that quarter. The gradual easing of public health restrictions between July and September 2020 saw economic activity pick up slightly to around 150 million on average per week. During the fiscal year 2020 to 21, overall economic activity in nominal terms contracted by almost $2,135,700,000, sir, compared to the reported activity for the previous fiscal year, representing almost 18%, sir, of the economy. This represents approximately $41 million less economic activity on average per week, due solely to the coronavirus pandemic. In spite of such unprecedented set of circumstances, sir, this government was still able to provide a range of social protection measures to keep Barbadian households afloat and to provide business relief without compromising the financing of education or healthcare services. Some of these measures include $20 million to the Household Survivor Program to provide $600 per month cash transfer to support vulnerable families affected by the economic fallout from the pandemic. $10 million to the Welfare Department to meet additional costs of grants to individuals. $48.8 million to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital for the management of the COVID-19 program. $10.7 million again to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital for their current operations. $10 million to provide financial relief to vendors, operators of small shops, and medium-sized businesses impacted by the national shutdown. And $10 million to the Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training to provide tablets and laptops to assist students with online classes. The budget, sir, for this current fiscal year was prepared in an environment of significantly depressed economic activity caused by the ongoing coronavirus pandemic, whilst at the same time experiencing a significant surge in cases during January and February of 2021. All of this translated to lower revenue expectations for this fiscal year, which, coupled with constraints on spend, resulted in a 6% primary balance being reset to 0% as we sought to reconfigure, sir, the budget priorities. Consequently, the estimates of revenue and expenditure 2021 to 22 were developed with emphasis placed on continuing support of the health sector in light of the ongoing pandemic, while reinvigorating the economy through its emphasis on capital works. Additionally, the budget detailed outlays to support the most vulnerable by continuing those programs that were established at the height of the pandemic. The lifting of the public health restrictions in March of 2021 meant that for the period April to September 2021, the average weekly economic activity increased by approximately $20 million per week to $173.4 million compared to the same period in 2020. Whilst this improvement is most welcome, the overall level of economic activity is still significantly below fiscal year 2019-2020 levels, which averaged then, sir, 196 million in economic activity per week, which we are working hard to surpass as quickly as possible with the active participation and cooperation of Barbadians. Amendments to the budget, sir, as detailed in the fiscal framework, were made to include outlays relating to the ash fall cleanup, the freak storm in June, then Hurricane Elsa in July, the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc., as well as the Barbados Employment and Sustainable Transformation Program, which provides support to the tourism sector. Revenue upturn. Despite the impact of COVID-19, there has been some improvement in the overall revenue performance for the first half of the fiscal year 2021-22, as total revenue stood at $1.3 billion at the end of September 2021, $52.5 million above the outturn for the previous fiscal year. The revenue performance at the end of September relative to budget expectations led to a revision of the end-of-year revenue forecast, which is now 2.8% above the initial budgeted projection and 1.2% above the amended fiscal framework. When compared, though, to the same period for fiscal year 2019-20, revenue, sir, is still some $150 million below 2019-20 levels, showing clearly that the revenue performance mimics the trend in overall economic activity. Net corporation tax declined by $170.9 million, mainly due to the one-off international business sector payments of around $200 million last year, which slightly offset the underlying revenue loss of approximately $600 million in the 2020-21 fiscal year. However, net income payments increased largely due to the increased employment relative to the previous period last year, and an increase of $68.6 million over the 2020-21 outturn was observed. Total excise was $89.6 million at the end of the first 6 months of the fiscal year. Domestic excise contributed approximately $2 million to the overall increase, as the pickup in domestic demand translated to modest improvements in all categories, namely rum, sweetened drinks, tobacco, and breweries. Value-added tax registered higher receipts, particularly on domestic sales, where eligible transactions improved by over $500 million, leading to a $28.2 million increase for the April to September 21 period. VAT on imports increased by $30.7 million as the Customs Department, in collaboration with the Bridgetown Port Inc., introduced enhanced processing at the Bridgetown Port to better facilitate the clearance of cargo in response to the pandemic. This led to net VAT receipts to end September of $382.6 million, 4.3% above the budgeted target for the period. Expenditure outturn. Expenditure increased by $168 million over the corresponding period in 2020. Though it was well below the budgeted outlays determined by the fiscal framework by $123.5 million, given the slow progress of the capital works program. The budget estimated total expenditure net of amortization was $2.9 billion for fiscal year 2020-21. The outturn at the end of September represents 46.5% of expected budget outlays, with approximately $1.6 billion left to be spent. However, the ongoing demands of COVID-19, the recent fallout of the freak storm and Hurricane Elsa, as well as the ashfall and from the La Severe volcano, have led to the approval of supplementary reserve totaling $267.3 million. In early April, sir, Barbados experienced severe disruption from the eruption of the La Severe volcano in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The resulting ashfall, sir, blanketed the entire island, causing an overall loss of some estimated $89 million in economic activity. Sir, this country would have been crippled if this government did not move swiftly to limit those economic losses by getting the country clean and reopened to serve the public as quickly as possible. I therefore want to thank those workers, sir, and firms that joined the national effort to clean up the ash from the airport to the seaport, from the breeze blocks at our schools, sir, to the polyclinics, the roads and the drains, sir, from St. Lucie to St. Philip, the cost of which, sir, was $23 million in unplanned expenditures. At the beginning of July, sir, Barbados experienced significant damage from the passage of Hurricane Elsa, which saw over 2,000 reports of house damage, with some 500 properties approximately requiring complete rebuilding. This was 2 weeks after the passage of the 90-minute freak storm, that also led to damage to houses and infrastructure. More than 90% of the houses damaged or lost were occupied by persons under the poverty line, and approximately 95% of the houses were uninsured. As a result, this House voted almost $50 million in August to jumpstart the rebuilding and the repair program to get displaced Barbadians back into their homes. During 2020, sir, 52,282 claims for unemployment were received by the National Insurance Scheme, compared to the regular annual average of 11,450 claims over the period 2017 to 2019. This significant increase in claims resulted in $155.5 million being paid to 34,000 individuals. Based on the circumstances, the unemployment benefit account, sir, utilized all of its resources to pay unemployment claims, and as a result, borrowed significantly from the National Insurance Fund and the Catastrophe Fund to satisfy its statutory obligations and to pay all approved unemployment claims. Total borrowings in 2020 were just over $75 million. And with the lockdown at the start of 2021, unemployment claims increased further with 1,506 and 11,802 claims received in January and February, respectively, of this year. Total borrowings increased to $93 million at the end of February 2021. A plan to recapitalize the Unemployment Benefit Fund in the amount of $143 million over 3 to 5 years to eliminate its indebtedness to those funds was agreed to in June 2021, and $50 million was voted by supplementary in August to the National Insurance Scheme. A third wave of COVID-19 cases in country saw the voting of additional resources, sir, of approximately $48 million to the Ministry of Health and the Queen Elizabeth Hospital to respond to the pandemic. Of particular note is that by the end of September 2021, sir, the Queen Elizabeth Hospital had already exhausted its COVID-19 vote for this fiscal year due to the significant increase in cases during the summer. Grants to public institutions, including over 45 state-owned enterprises, were $81 million above the budget. The increases were largely to the Enterprise Growth Fund to implement the BEST program, the Queen Elizabeth Hospital support with its COVID-19 management, and the Child Care Board to cover operational expenses. Total outlays were $307.8 million over the review period. Capital expenditure increased by $28 million during the first half of fiscal year 2021-22 relative to the same period in the previous fiscal year, to reach $106.7 million as infrastructure works related to the Constitution River, Spikestone flood mitigation, and roadwork projects remain ongoing. Increased spending for the Sanitation Service Authority and funding to the private sector via fund access and trust loans also occurred over the review period. This combined outturn outweighed the reduction in the capital transfers to the Barbados Water Authority, which was used to finance the water supply network project. I turn to debt and financing, sir. Public debt outstanding as at September 30th, 2021 stood at approximately $13,086.1 million, approximately 146.9% of GDP. This is comprised of external debt of $4,191 million, domestic long-term debt of $8,111.2 million, short-term domestic debt of $700 million, external guaranteed debt of $48.9 million, and central government arrears of $35 million. As at September 30th, 2021, the outstanding debt under the International Monetary Fund ceiling on public debt of $13,381 million by approximately $294.9 million. Due to the significant impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the economy and the continued adjustment to the fiscal framework to respond to the additional external shocks, the initial debt to GDP target of 60% by 2033 to 34, set under the Barbados Economic Recovery and Transformation Program, needed to be adjusted to maintain program credibility. This target has now been revised and set for fiscal year 2035-36. In addition, as part of the continued support under the Extended Fund Facility Program, the Barbados government received a disbursement of $49.1 million for budget support from the International Monetary Fund. On the domestic side, approximately $83.9 million in Series B bonds were issued by the government of Barbados in exchange for the Needham's Point Holdings Limited Barbados $80 million bond. The Barbados Optional Savings Scheme bonds continue to be issued, sir, yielding approximately $23.2 million for the period. Series F bonds totaling $2.7 million were issued in respect of the settlement of legal claims against the Crown, which were initiated before September 2018, as well as refunds to NHC tenants under the Sale of Tenancy Units program. Approximately $193,000 in bonds were liquidated for bondholders whose original holdings were $5,000 or less, and others facing predominantly serious health challenges. At the 30th of September, the actual expenditure on debt service amounted to approximately $327.1 million compared to the approved estimates of $360 million for the period April to September 2020, a difference of $32.9 million. Approximately 4.6 of this was attributed to the redemption of savings bonds, which have matured but have not yet been presented for settlement. Approximately $13.3 million due in respect of external sinking fund contributions, whilst slower project disbursement and lower interest rates during the period accounted for a $14.2 million difference compared to the original projections. The fiscal and primary balances at the end of September totaled $148 million, or 1.5% of GDP, and $15.9 million, or 0.2% of GDP. It is assumed that if full goods and services in the capital budget as identified within the framework is fully utilized and expenditure is further expanded by what has been detailed in the supplementary estimates, then the revised forecast will result in an overall balance of minus 6.7% of GDP and an overall primary balance of minus 0.3% of GDP. It is important to remind the public, sir, that faced with a reduction of almost $600 million in revenue and increased expenditures to fight the pandemic, government needed to access critical financial resources to finance these operations, while still maintaining the social investment of healthcare and education, which citizens have become accustomed. To that end, I wish to note the sums received from the following institutions to Barbados since the onset of the pandemic in 2020 by way of loans for budget support, on average at interest rates between 1% and 3%, sir. From the International Monetary Fund, $417 million. From the Inter-American Development Bank, $400 million. From the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, otherwise known as the World Bank, sir, $200 million, which we were granted exceptional access given the onset of COVID-19 for Barbados. And from the Development Bank of Latin America, otherwise known as CAF, sir, $200 million. Undoubtedly, Mr. Speaker, the loans provided to us at these highly concessional interest rates are testimony to the confidence that these institutions have in the management of the Barbados economy. The same confidence is reflected in the external bond market, where Barbados' bonds are currently trading above par, or in layman's terms, above the original market value. Mr. Speaker, sir, the team in Economic Affairs, led ably by the Honourable Member for St. Michael South Central, should be applauded for sourcing the financing from these multilateral banks, whilst the finance and central bank team, sir, should be thanked for working with the IMF to access critical financing. We must be brutally honest with ourselves, sir. In spite of the fact that the government of Barbados faced a $600 million revenue loss and a loss of economic activity of almost 18%, we were able to increase our support in fighting the pandemic and supporting Barbadians across every spectrum of the economy and society. Such support included cash transfers, sir, and income replacement schemes to vulnerable households. Example, a 40% increase in the welfare payments, $600 per month assistance to over 2,000 most vulnerable households, support to affected businesses via direct cash grants, and fiscally in the form of the BEST program. We also implemented a 12-month COVID relief program, which not only provide contract employment for many Barbadians, but also serve to stimulate domestic economic activity. Foreign reserve cover, sir. Mr. Speaker, 42 months ago, the Barbados Party was given the awesome mandate by the people to govern. The country's stock of reserves, the country's stock of foreign reserves then stood at $440 million, or 5.6 weeks of import cover at the end of June. This was as a direct result of our decision, sir, on June 1st of 2018 to suspend the external debt payments and the announcement of a domestic and external debt restructuring. Recall that $100 million approximately was due to be paid at the end of June 2018 on the Credit Suisse loan, sir, which as a result of the many downgrades saw Barbados paying interest rates north of 12% on that particular loan. Had the status quo remained, sir, Barbados would effectively only have had 4.3 weeks of import cover at the end of June 2018. One of the main objectives of implementing the reforms of the Barbados Economic Recovery and Transformation Program was to rebuild foreign exchange reserve buffers to a minimum of 24 weeks or 6 months, such that the country could comfortably absorb, sir, external shocks. I'm happy to report to this chamber that at the end of September 2021, Barbados' stock of reserves stood at $2.865 billion, representing almost 42 weeks of import cover. Never in the history, and with that, sir, never in the history of our country has the Barbados dollar been more secure. I mentioned earlier, sir, Barbados recorded a 95% reduction in tourist arrivals in 2020 and have only started to see some improvement over the course of the summer of 2021. This means that the country, sir, has not been able to earn the usual levels of foreign exchange for the past 18 months. Yet, the previous accumulation of reserves, sir, have allowed the country to continue to function and to make all of our external payments, whether as individuals, sir, shopping on Amazon, or paying Netflix subscriptions, sir, or businesses purchasing food and supplies, or making investments, sir. But more importantly, these reserves have allowed the country to purchase much needed medical supplies and equipment, sir, to fight the pandemic. I now turn, sir, to the issue of the budget, because recently there's been many calls for a budget to be presented to the country. I remind the chamber through you, sir, and the public, that when we passed the Public Finance Management Act in 2019, it was done with the absolute clear understanding that what Barbadians regarded as the budget, sir, would be done in March during the presentation of the estimates of revenue and expenditure, where any new policies would be announced, especially if there were any fiscal gaps to be financed. The purpose was to bring order and clarity to the administration, sir, of the public finances. I also made it clear then, sir, at the passing of the legislation, that where any extraordinary actions were to be taken, that the government reserves the right to come back to Parliament at any time, sir, in order to adequately address the concerns of the day. This government, sir, has done that throughout this pandemic, not for the sake, sir, of calling it a budget, but to respond to the urgent and pressing needs of Barbadians as they arise. We laid the fiscal framework, sir, in August 2021. We laid the mid-year report, sir, in October 2021. We came to Parliament, sir, to provide resources to clean up the ashfall that blanketed the country in April. We provided resources to those displaced by Hurricane Elsa in July. We've also provided urgent financial resources to the Ministry of Health and Wellness and the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in response, sir, to the surge in Delta cases over the summer. We have provided resources, sir, to commence the recapitalization of the National Insurance Fund through the Unemployment Benefit Fund. Now, sir, these are not the only issues confronting Barbados, but financial management in the midst of a global pandemic must be nimble and flexible, and it is not our posture, sir, to wait for a singular moment in which to act. Government must continually monitor and make decisions as the situation unfolds. And this mid-year review introduced by this government, with the passage of the Public Finance Management Act, has considerably enhanced the transparency attending to the management of the fiscal affairs. Mr. Speaker, the mission ahead is really quite simple, particularly in the short term. All citizens must make each hour of every day count, such that we all get the economy back on track as quickly as possible, while still observing the public health protocols. We encourage persons to get vaccinated, as doing so quickly allows for more relaxation of restrictions, and with the continued arrival of tourists, I am confident that growth and employment will rebound quickly. This is what living with COVID looks like: balancing the saving of lives and maintaining livelihoods. As the Prime Minister has said repeatedly, sir, this is now a marathon, not a sprint. The government will continue to transition its departments and agencies along the path of digitization in order to improve services to the public. And as such, we expect the private sector to follow suit. We will continue to focus on the implementation of our Capital Works program and other measures to improve business facilitation. And with the full cooperation of our citizens and those we welcome to our shores, In 2022, we hope to see the back of COVID-19. Barbados, you can see that we have responded to your basic needs. You can see that we have made your health and well-being a priority. You can see that the country is in good hands. Let us therefore continue to work hand in hand for the good of all in this country. Barbados, let's make it happen. I'm obliged to you, sir.
Honorable Leader, Government Business.
Mr. Speaker, we revert to government business.
Honorable Leader, Government Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move the suspension of the sitting until Tuesday. The adjournment until Tuesday, the 23rd of November at 10 a.m.
The question is that this honorable chamber be adjourned until Tuesday, the 23rd day of November at 10 a.m. in the forenoon. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it. This honorable chamber stands adjourned until Tuesday, the 23rd day of November at 10 a.m. in the forenoon.